Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The national anthem is the prayer of Jamaica. I invite you to stand for the playing of the national anthem.
Jamaica, Jamaica, Jamaica. Shine on, Jamaica. Let no man hinder you. Shine on, Jamaica. Let no man hinder you. Oh, shine on, Jamaica. Let no man hinder you.
This is rhythm.
This is rhyme.
Crafted through a syncopated line of time.
Oozing.
Whistling. Thumping from a plump, thick, prolific ground. Taking form to stimulate catharsis from verbs and nouns. Syllables falling on fertile ear, germinating a phenomenon only black can bear. This is more than an iambic pentameter. Written in raw, sharp patois.
Colonization in reverse.
Uriah climb up on the pulpit in the church.
Lovely, dainty Spanish needle. Do you see me in the meadows coming from the woodlands?
Blowing and weeding.
Digging and plant till master sun drop down upon Danko Mountain.
Lyrical mother of reggae. Rubber dub and rock steady.
Culture in dancehall.
Through time and space.
Her ethos are recalled.
This is poetry. Jamaican poetry.
Refreshingly chill and sultry. Cool and deadly. Ease and steady. I'm feeling great now, how you feeling? Really, really fine. I've got the songs with many meanings. Read between the lines, all of the prophecy revealing. When you're really pretty signs, you gotta creep before you walk. You gotta live before you die.
Tory, white man, white in his feet, met me by the Golden Grove marketplace. He looked at me, all clothes brown with stain and soaked right through with the Portland rain. He cast his eyes and turned up his nose. He said, "You're a beggarman, I suppose." He said, "Boy, get some occupation. Be of some value to your nation." I said, "My God, and this big right hand, you must recognize a banana man."
I'm feeling great, now how you feeling? Really feeling fine, all of the prophecy revealing. When you're really precise, you gotta creep before you walk, you gotta live before they die. Really feeling fine, all of the prophecy revealing. When you're really pretty signs, creep before you walk, you gotta live before you die. Me put the city on there. They'll a splash, yeah, they'll a move. Place full of.
No, come on, everybody. Did you feel it? That was electrifying. I loved it. I could listen to them all day. They are Badu Productions. Jamaica has the most talented young people anywhere. And did you just listen to the poetry? And did you watch it just weave itself into the movement and the singing? Beautiful. It tells me it's going to be a great World Poetry Day. It already has been, because we're all gathered together here. I know, because if everybody else is shorter than I, then you can imagine. Yes. Listen, they say poetry is found in the history of every nation. It brings us together under shared values and common humanity. And that's why it's important for us today to celebrate. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll allow me, I'd like to go through the necessary protocol so that for ease of flow, everyone who subsequently comes up to the lectern will not be, forced is not a good word, may not feel the need to do so. All right, and so I begin with our Minister of State and the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, the Honorable Alonda Terrelong. Good morning, sir. Miss Emina Todakovic, Canadian High Commissioner to Jamaica. Badewole Adebowale, Minister Counselor for the Nigerian High Commissioner. Miss Isabel Vieira, UNESCO Cluster Office for the Caribbean. Mr. Everton Hannam, Jamaica National Commission for UNESCO. Miss Olive Senior, Poet Laureate of Jamaica, 2021 to 2024, and I see the great Mervyn Morris, who is also a Poet Laureate. Listen, when you see Olive Senior and Mervyn Morris in the same room, you know, that underscores for you the legacy that we have in Jamaica of great poets and great poetry. So give them a round of applause for me, please. We are in the presence of greatness. Miss Joy Douglas, Chairman of the Board of Management of the National Library of Jamaica. Miss Beverly Lashley, the National Librarian. Members of the media, educators, students, ladies and gentlemen, those who are joining us online, hello, good morning, and welcome, welcome, welcome to World Poetry Day, Jamaica. It's World Poetry Day, but this is Jamaica. That's what we're celebrating today. To give you the official welcome, though, ladies and gentlemen, a very bubbly and vibrant National Librarian. Yes. Miss Beverly Lashley, it's over to you. She going to need some help, gentlemen, I'm telling you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'm really so happy you took away part of the portfolio that they've given to me. So I want to tell you all a warm welcome to the National Library of Jamaica's World Poetry Day 2022 celebration. Just put it in a little bit history, a perspective, just to tell you that World Poetry Day, WPD, was first celebrated in the year 2000 when UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, declared this day at its 30th session held in Paris in 1999. But here in Jamaica, the national proclamation was given by the Governor General in 2018 after lobbying by the National Library of Jamaica and our parent ministry, the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, making this day officially recognized on the Jamaican calendar. So the whole purpose of World Poetry Day is to promote the reading, the writing, speaking, publishing, and teaching of poetry everywhere in the world. And certainly, as the National Library of Jamaica, we have a distinct focus on our Jamaican literary heritage. Therefore, we are gathered here today to celebrate the advances made to support Jamaican poetry. At this juncture, this was where I now should have acknowledged all these persons, and I was really practicing, Miss Dahlia. So I can move on from that, but of course, I would have to acknowledge my Minister of State, Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, the Honorable Alonda Terrylang. He actually has the portfolio for the Poet Laureate program. So thank you, sir, for coming. And of course, my board chair, Ms. Joy Douglas. She's the chair of the Poet Laureate program, as well as the chairman of the Board of Management. And Ms. Senior, I will too recognize you as our present Poet Laureate. All who are here, and to all those who are there in the virtual space, warm welcome to you all. On behalf of the National Library of Jamaica and the Board of Management, the celebration of Jamaican poetry has already started both in the room, because we heard that production earlier, and online. So I invite us all to readily receive today's program. Welcome to World Poetry Day 2022. Do enjoy.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lashley. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be treated to some remarks, and I'll just read the order in which the speakers will appear. And so once one speaker is finished, the other will just follow. And the remarks will be from Ms. Joy Douglas, OD, Chairman, Board of Management from the National Library of Jamaica. And that will be followed by Mrs. Isabel Vieira Bermudez, Advisor, Communication and Information of the Unesco Cluster Office for the Caribbean. And then our Poet Laureate of Jamaica, Ms. Olive Senior. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Joy Douglas.
All protocols observed. Good morning. And a big welcome to you on behalf of the Board of Management and the Poet Laureate of Jamaica Committee of the National Library of Jamaica. The past 2 years have been very challenging as the entire world grappled with the COVID-19 pandemic. While the World Health Organization has not declared the end to the pandemic, many countries, such as Jamaica, are now trying to transition to a new normal, as it is now generally accepted that we will all have to learn to live with COVID-19, this virus, in the same way that we now live with the flu. During the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, the National Library was determined to continue to deliver on its mandate to ensure that the world would be able to continue to explore, discover, and connect to the cultural heritage of Jamaica. In this regard, the National Library of Jamaica pursued a strategy of digital transformation of almost all of its services and programs, thereby actually increasing accessibility to Jamaicans and the global community. Our Poet Laureate of Jamaica program, therefore, went digital. This enabled our new Poet Laureate, Ms. Olive Senior, to be invested in 2021 with the entire world witnessing the ceremony. Since the revival of the Poet Laureate program in 2014, we have invested 3 such distinguished literary masters in the persons of Professor Mervyn Morris, OM, Ms. Lorna Goodison, CD, and now Ms. Olive Senior, who have all developed innovative means of taking Jamaican poetry from the page to the street and to the world. Ms. Olive Senior, just 1 year into her tenure, has been responding exceptionally well to the virtual environment. She was born to it, and has been engaging large numbers of Jamaicans at home and in the diaspora through online activities. Some of these include the Poet Laureate Twitter space, and I am not on Twitter, so I'm telling you, Olive is ahead, because I am not on Twitter. Poet Laureate panel on dub and reggae poetry, and other programs which you will hear about. For their high level of output, we congratulate Ms. Sina and her team. Today, on World Poetry Day 2022, the National Library of Jamaica renews its commitment to enriching the lives of Jamaicans everywhere through creativity and innovation. I would like to take this opportunity to personally thank the Honorable Olivia Babsy-Grange, the Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment, and Sport, who could not be with us today, she's in cabinet, for her unfailing support for the work of the National Library of Jamaica, and of course, the Honorable Alanda Terrellon, State Minister in the Ministry with special responsibility for the Poet Laureate program, for bringing added commitment and vitality, because this is energy personified, I tell you, to the program. So we know we are getting bigger and better under his leadership. I would also like to thank UNESCO and all diplomatic and corporate partners for their continued support. I implore all Jamaicans everywhere to take full advantage of the resources for growth and development available to you at the National Library of Jamaica. The National Library of Jamaica, our national library, your national library, is one of a kind and is equivalent to the British Library. We know who is going to be landing here tomorrow. So I want you to understand that we are on par with the gentleman landing tomorrow, the Honorable Royal and his wife, because we have an institution that is equivalent to his premier institution, the British Library, and of course, to his former colony, the United States, in the form of the Library of Congress. So I must end by re-emphasizing to Jamaica that we are on par with any major superpower in the world with respect to the protection, development, and proliferation of our cultural heritage. This is a national treasure that we will continue to share. Thank you.
All protocols observed. Good morning and happy World Poetry Day 2022. On behalf of UNESCO, I thank you very much for the invitation to celebrate together this World Poetry Day. I wish to convey heartfelt greetings from Ms. Sadia Sanchez-Vegas, the Director and Representative of the UNESCO Cluster Office for the Caribbean, based in Kingston, who is unable to attend this event today as she is on a flight back to Kingston right now. On her behalf, I will read her message for World Poetry Day 2022. I am honored for this opportunity to speak to you today and transmit the power of poetry in its many forms and different languages ahead of this year's launch of the Indigenous Decade for Indigenous Language from 2022 to 2032. During its 13th General Conference held in Paris in 1999, UNESCO first adopted the poetic expression and increasing opportunity for endangered languages to be heard. In this sense, the World Poetry Day is the occasion to honor poets, revive oral traditions, the collective identity and historical memory of poetry recitals, promote the reading, writing, and teaching of poetry, foster the convergence between poetry and other arts such as theater, dance, music, and painting. The Argentinian writer Jorge Luis Borges defined poetry as the expression of the beautiful through the medium of words artfully woven together. As the Ivorian poet, novelist, philosopher, and author of a children's book, Tanela Boni, wrote in her article published in UNESCO Career recently, poetry is made to be shared in a sensitive way. That is how it shapes the human being, body, and soul. By following the path of emotions and sensitivity and of the imagination, it is a vehicle for transmitting human knowledge and values, a sense of good and evil, the great depths of men and women, ancient traditions, and the link with nature. In her message for today's World Poetry Day, Ms. Audrey Azoulay, Director General of UNESCO, is shining the spotlight on indigenous poetry. The languages and cultures of indigenous people around the world are increasingly under threat, in particular from industrial development, climate change, and conflict. For this community, poetry plays an important role in maintaining linguistical and cultural diversity and preserving memory. I quote her message: "Arranged in words, colored with images, stuck with the right meter, the power of poetry has no match. As an intimate form of expression that opens doors to others, poetry enriches the dialogue that catalyzes all human progresses and is more necessary than ever in these turbulent times." Quote end. In this sense, we recognize poetry in local languages and dialects, such as the famous works of Louise Bennett Coverley of Jamaica, most widely known as Miss Lou. By writing and performing her poetry in Jamaican patois, she contributed greatly to the preservation of cultural identity by promoting the recognition of literary expression and local languages. Not just limited to art and culture, poetry is also a conduit for formal and informal education, since it provides effective support for lifelong learning. Similarly, UNESCO facilitates the preservation of world's documentary heritage and paves the way for universal access to documentary heritage and for greater awareness worldwide of the existence and importance of this documentary heritage through the Memory of the World program. In this regard, I would like to recall that in 2016, the Roger Mays collection, held at the main library at the University of the West Indies, Mona, was officially inscribed in the UNESCO Memory of the World, Latin America, and the Caribbean Register. Roger Mays' work inspires us to uphold and pursue our most desired aspirations and beliefs, especially in the uncertain, turbulent, and fast-changing world in which we live today. As Roger Mays highlights so distinctly through his words, poetry lies at the heart of women, of whom we are, as women and men, living together today, drawing on the heritage of past generations, custodians and creators of the world's present and future. Since poetry is an act of creating and sharing, UNESCO invites everyone on this World Day to create, invent, share, and be open to other languages and other ways of naming the world, to rejoice and all the difference in our growing diversity. Poetry transcends boundaries and borders and brings us together to unite us around the same emotions. It reminds us of the beauty that surrounds us and strengthens our spiritual resilience. By celebrating poetry, we celebrate our ability to stay together in a spirit of solidarity. To cultivate art and poetry is to cultivate life, nurture our minds and souls, and embrace peace. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. All protocols observed. Almost to the day of my appointment as Poet Laureate of Jamaica, I have the pleasure of witnessing the inauguration of the Jamaica Poetry Archive at the National Library of Jamaica. I expect that the Honorable Minister will tell you more about this initiative, but I would like to say a few words here about the concept and its execution so far. This electronic archive of Jamaican poetry will be a repository of primary material that can be consulted by the public. On the Jamaica Poetry Archive website, which is inaugurated today, you can now see, but more importantly, hear Jamaican poets reading their work and find out more information about each one, along with the texts of the poems. The aim is to bring our poets home and into your hearts, not simply as words on a page, but within speaking distance, so to speak, whether they reside in Jamaica, Canada, the USA, the UK, or elsewhere. We're starting small, with a limited number of poets and 5 to 7 minutes of reading by each. But this is a project that is meant to grow, with the addition of a new cadre of poets each year, and over time, and expansion in many other ways, such as, we hope, the inclusion of recordings by dead poets. What you'll see and hear on the website represents the generosity of the poets who have contributed the material and the recordings as their gift to Jamaica. And you can help us to acknowledge them by listening to their work and encouraging others to do so. This will be an enormously useful tool for students and young poets, some of whom are present here today. But everyone, especially those of you who hate poetry or have no real interest, might be pleasantly surprised at how listening to the poets might change your minds. The intimacy of such a connection might be underscored by a remark by the poet Donald Hall that, quote, "A poem is a human inside talking to a human inside." You work that out. I just want to make a few more observations that are crucial to the site. In looking at the website, you might feel disappointed by the absence of some of your favorite poets, the people who should obviously be there, and we too are disappointed. I'd like to emphasize that this is merely the start of what will be a continuous process over time. It's very important to recognize that. The Poetry Archive is not a competition to see who gets on now. It is a way to honor our best poets and their work, those who have already distinguished themselves through publications, recordings, awards, and international recognition according to criteria established by the Poet Laureate Committee and chosen by vote from a very long list of worthy candidates. Because of limited resources, only a small number of poets can be accommodated now and in each subsequent year. because you cannot imagine the amount of work involved in just getting this going. Each poet who accepts our invitation is asked to provide the information you see on the site, including the recording. Some poets that we invited were unable to provide the information by the deadline and so do not yet appear on the archive. They will be added as the information becomes available. Others are yet to respond to the invitation, but please don't ask me who they are. Later in the year, we will select the next set of poets to be added to the archive in time for the next World Poetry Day, and so it will go on and on in perpetuity, we hope. I wish to thank the members of the Poet Laureate Committee, headed by Ms. Joy Douglas and Professor Edward Baugh, the National Librarian, Ms. Beverly Lashley, for their endorsement of and support of this project. And I would especially like to thank Mr. Rowan Green, Director, Special Programs at the National Library, who I can say has been doing all the heavy lifting, for his commitment, creativity, and persistence in helping to bring this dream to fruition. Among all, thanks to the first set of poets to be included in the archive for so willingly embracing the project. I hope you will be repaid with listeners and with love. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Douglas, Mrs. Vera Bermudez, and our Poet Laureate for those remarks. Very interesting remarks. I found them to be. Chairman, of course, updating us on the fact, well, reminding us that we are on par. We're a global brand, and that we are on par with other global brands, and that is amazing. Thank you, Mrs. Bermudez, for reminding us poetry has no match in terms of its power. It transcends boundaries. It does. It does transcend boundaries. And of course, our Poet Laureate, who will not give us those names, but in true poetry style, has left us thinking. Thank you very much for that. I'm excited about the archive. The minister will tell you some more about that a little bit later on. But before we get there, Mr. Daniel Richards is with us. He is a saxophonist, and he's going to be giving us a musical tribute. Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Richards.
Roses are red, violets are blue. I love poetry, how about you? We're on the road again for World Poetry Day 2022, and I'm Brittany Clark, and I'm going to be the one to guide you along the way as we touch down at 3 schools in the corporate area to hear if they think poetry is important, why it's relevant in today's society, and if they can remember any poems that they can recite for me. So join us.
To me, poetry is a genre of literature that includes rhymes and stanzas.
It is important because it helps people to express their feelings and emotions,
and also to understand the perspectives of others and maybe even the state to which they are in when they wrote the poem.
Not all of us can express ourselves in a straightforward manner, but we want to put our feelings out there, and poetry is a great way to do that.
It helps me to express my feelings more, get out of my shyness.
If you're in some kind of difficulties, you can write it out.
And even though they may not know how to speak it out, they can write something so beautifully and meaningful.
It can add additional value to our students, our studies, and our lessons.
There was a topic and we have a poem to that topic, and I didn't remember what is the answer for the question, and I used back that poem to find the answer.
As a literature teacher, students relate to poetry so much, which makes the class so interesting. I mean, themes like childhood experiences,
war, death, it's very relatable. Even in Russia and Ukraine, what is going on, war and death.
Some people use it to relax their mindset and also to motivate.
I always like to escape reality, just forget about, life, and just see the good things.
I will go on the internet and search up any happy poems and such like that, and those words will inspire me to be a better person.
Sometimes I sing and listen, yes, it's a fire, I do him thing, and I say, yeah, the youth are talented, So it really have a meaning for the world and Jamaica.
Poetry is relevant because it's a linguistic expression where persons from different culture can identify with.
Take Miss Lou, for example. She writes a lot of cultural poems using one of her cultural aspects, which is, Creole language. Others around the world read this. They can learn our language, see our culture through Creole.
A lot of people don't read poetry anymore, but they actually use poetry because music and poetry use creative words, they use rhymes, and they use the metaphors and all that kind of stuff. So it's basically the same thing.
You can see that poetry has been since the biblical days, and the Psalms is where David expressed himself.
There are words that can be powerful and that can educate us on so much level. So I do think that it's still relevant in this generation.
My favorite poem would be Little Boy Crying. It's about a little boy that was beaten by his father as a result of him playing in the rain.
The ogre towers above you, that grim giant. Mervyn Morris, Little Boy Crying.
Good morning, teacher. How is you? My name is Sarah Poole. This is Femi Little Boy Michael. I'm just ring my school. I really like that poem because it's very humorous.
La, she just drive off, so. Rubbish bin again tonight. Me have to go join long line, and by the time me reach up at the rubbish bin, God bless where me find.
Well, son, I tell you, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had tacks in it, and splinters, and boards torn up, and places with no carpets on the floor. Bear.
I love Mirror because it speaks to self, acceptance. I am silver and exact. I have no preconceptions. In me has John a little girl, and in me an old woman rises towards her day by day like a terrible fish.
And I was afraid to fail like the others. She was the ocean, and I was just a boy who loved the waves, but completely terrified to swim.
We attend Pembroke High School.
We are from 88 James High School. We are from Pembroke High School.
And we think poetry is very relevant.
We believe that poetry is important. We believe that poetry is important.
Can we hear it one more time for the children? Always, I think the Vox Pop has become one of my favorite features at World Poetry Day. They're just telling you as it is from their hearts. you know? And could you not see and hear that poetry really is relevant to them and that they connect with it? Sometimes I think we try to imagine what young people like and don't like, and actually they do like it, and we just need to facilitate them accessing poetry. Absolutely loved it, absolutely loved it. Well, something else that I absolutely love is the Poetry Archive, because again, we have such a legacy, and I think it's important that generations to come will understand who we are as a people and how our poets continue to underscore our greatness through their work, and the Jamaica Poetry Archive will do just that. And so, ladies and gentlemen, to deliver his address and the official launch of the Jamaica Poetry Archive and the National Poetry Competition, please welcome the Honorable Orlando Terrelang, Minister of State in the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport.
Poetry is art. Poetry is music. Poetry is passion. Poetry is reason. Poetry is survival. Poetry is development. Poetry is enlightenment. Poetry is life. I greet you all this morning and thank you for coming here today as we celebrate World Poetry Day. Madam Master of Ceremonies, a pleasant good morning to you. And whilst the protocol has already been established, please permit me to say a special how they do, welcome to Jamaica, hope everything are going good, big up on yourself. To High Commissioner Tudakovic of the Canadian High Commission to Jamaica, and of course, Senora Isabel Vieira, who is our UNESCO representative this morning. And of course, we would not be here today with such a rich history, such a great legacy of poetry, without the masters who sit before us, to whom we pay eternal homage and gratitude, Senora Mervyn Morris, and of course, Madam Lady herself, Olive Senior. It is my privilege to be here with you today as we celebrate World Poetry Day. The Ministry is pleased to congratulate the National Library of Jamaica on its most recent accomplishments that will be launched here today. Unquestionably, the National Library of Jamaica has been a pillar institution, directing the efforts of all government libraries island-wide towards the common goal of national development through cultural preservation and promotion, a significant tenet of Vision 2030. For the government of Jamaica, the time, the truth is that in this, our 60th year of independence, we not only celebrate the myriad achievements of our nation's past, but in a manner of speaking and action, we renew the call for excellence amongst our people, including creatives from all walks of life. In today's world, this takes the form of establishing culturally relevant and internationally competitive standards and connecting generations who have gone before and those who are upcoming. With that charge, it is my honor to speak today and to launch two programs: the Poet Laureate of Jamaica Prizes for Poetry, and of course, the Jamaica Poetry Archive. In speaking of the Poet Laureate of Jamaica Prizes for Poetry, allow me to indicate how excited we are as all Jamaicans, as writers, to stir the creativity within the people of Jamaica in a competition that is worth its mettle. Since 2017, the National Library of Jamaica has facilitated this sub-initiative of the Poet Laureate of Jamaica program and has been expanding its output ever since. Through this Poet Laureate of Jamaica Prize for Poetry competition, young writers have quantifiably honed their craft. Participation has stimulated the production of material, young writers being offered published work for their first time, and many receiving financial contributions and awards for their creative material and also to further their creative talent. We have a few past winners here today who can attest to this. The prizes over the years have been structured in 4 categories, namely the Edward Ball Prize for Eastern Parishes, the Louise Bennett Coverley Prize for Central Jamaica, the Michael Cook Prize for Western Jamaica, and the Poet Laureate Young Writers Open category. This year, in addition to cash awards, some categories and adjudication processes continue as structured. The shortlisted entrants to the Young Writers Prize category will now have the opportunity of having prizes and, in fact, having their pieces also critiqued and their writings guided by our esteemed Poet Laureate, Miss Olive Senior herself. As Miss Senior streamlines her program to focus on writing about the environment, she will develop over her tenure an army of young Jamaican writers who will be able to sharpen their skills to influence hearts and minds towards environmental care through creative communication. To engage the Poet Laureate Prizes for Poetry, writers are in fact encouraged to visit the website of the National Library of Jamaica for more details, and I will give the website information shortly. As it relates to Jamaica Poetry Archive, as we enable our youth, there remains the sacred imperative for us to recognize the shoulders upon which we stand. It is with the utmost sense of pride and jubilation that I, in fact, announce the National Library of Jamaica's 2022 signature project, the Jamaica Poetry Archive. As a result of the Poet Laureate of Jamaica's vision and the National Library of Jamaica's responsiveness to innovation, Jamaica has established an online space within which the works and profiles of distinguished poets of independent Jamaica will reside for all mankind. This will serve as the standard bearer of Jamaican creativity and oral culture. Poetry is survival, and in establishing the Jamaica Poetry Archive, the survival of our oral traditions becomes increasingly unending. Our generation, our children, and their children will be more exposed to the diversity of minds, voices, and words of Jamaican-born literary luminaries which have shaped us as a people. Poetry is indeed development, and with this in mind, the Jamaica Poetry Archive will continue with the growth and development of our people and their creativity. The poets who are here and will be inducted into the archive are globally recognized as leaders in their craft, identifiable through their many publications and premier awards. Examples of these are the critically acclaimed Professor Edward Ball, Linton Kwesi Johnson, Mervyn Morris, Olive Senior, to name a few. Poetry is enlightenment, and by their works, our Jamaican poets over the years have sought not only to maintain the survival of our oral traditions, have not only sought to aid in the development and growth of Jamaica, but they have aided in the enlightenment of us all. For every single one of us here seated today is the product of poetry, whether by English language, by English literature, by the very songs we sing, by the very songs we listen to, by the very moods we express, by how we speak and how we live. We are all the product of an enlightened world thanks to poetry. The Jamaica Poetry Archive will be an ever-expanding online repository of esteemed Jamaican writers reading their works. The archive benefits those at home and abroad, connecting the dots of the diaspora whilst boosting Jamaica's profile on the global frontier of poetry. Poetry is indeed passion. Poetry is art. Poetry is life. And we, through this archive, will expose the very essence of our beings and our lives not just nationally, but globally as well. Members of the public, school teachers, students, up-and-coming writers are all invited to use the material provided within the archive via the National Library of Jamaica's website, japoetryarchive.nlj.gov.jm. I repeat, japoetryarchive.nlj.gov.jm. Through initiatives such as the National Poetry Competition and the Jamaica Poetry Archive, the government of Jamaica continues to demonstrate our commitment to empowering our people to both contribute to national development and to enjoy the fruits of their labor. The Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment, and Sport is committed to the advancement of our nation's literary heritage, both preserving and creating the environment for the development of what is to come. The ministry will continue to support the National Library of Jamaica, opening pathways to ensure that its growth continues. With that, Madam Chair, I might also add that I would love to see a competition coming out of the pandemic where we engage the minds of our students, ages 6 to 18, in poetry. A competition that focuses on 3 themes: survival, development, enlightenment. How has the pandemic affected us all? It would be good for our students to be able to put pen to paper, thoughts to words, and express how they have combated the pandemic, how they have survived, how it has developed their thoughts, their feelings, their minds, their worlds. What sort of enlightenment do they take forward to the next generation? For they have lived through a time such as this that history will not soon forget. Poetry is art. Poetry is music. Poetry is passion. Poetry is reason. Poetry is survival. Poetry is development. Poetry is enlightenment. Poetry is life. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. I hope everyone took the website down. japoetryarchive.nlj.gov.jm. I must repeat it because as soon as we're out of here, I hope we are logging on to, did you see the faces of who's featured on the archive? I'm excited to go on and hear them. And then look at this. No, Jamaica is truly blessed. Yes. And this isn't all. This isn't all. Thank you so much, Minister, for that. And I look forward to that suggestion because I know a lot of people have a lot to say about the pandemic. And I want to hear it too. I want to hear it too. I was sharing with someone that a lady said she went down to the national arena with her resume because they tell her that she must go there to get a job. She didn't know it was the vaccination. And I said, you see, language is such a powerful thing. Go get your job. She went. And she said, I can get 2, as a matter of fact. You know, so I said, no, you're going to get a joke, not a job. This is Jamaica. It's 2 different things. So that's what poetry does for us as a people. We get to share our language. You saw them earlier, and they were so powerful, so it's my pleasure to welcome them one more time in celebration of reggae poetry. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Badu Production.
When I look at where I'm coming from, looking back at where the journey began, I really have to say that I'm strong, I'm strong. All praises to the Most High One. When I look at where I'm coming from, looking back at where the journey began, I really have to say that I'm strong, I'm strong. All praises to the Most High One.
Poetry.
Blacker than black, and me not take that back. Black lips, black skin, and me melanin within. Say me love me black face, from black people race.
Lord, call me black a shine, this color is mine. Send me black till me cool. I man is no fool. Black is
poetry.
They never told us that black is beautiful. They never told us that black is beautiful. They never told us that black is beautiful. They never told us. They never told us that black is
when you think about the lyricist, vocabulary physicist, code switching in the syllabic, images, so graphic, simulating and cathartic, tapping into metaphoric, haiku, free verse on it, Lord, it could be limerick.
I feel it in the one drop, and we still got time to rap. We're making a one stop.
Like that.
The generation gap. I feel this drum beat as it beats within, playing a rhythm, resisting against the system. Oh, I know Jah never let us down.
Yeah, I hear me. Let in all use them and money promoter. How we are deal with? Yes, the dance done ram already.
Spain ton original.
Don't you know that love means never to say that you're sorry?
You know, once music nice.
Yes.
We have to play it twice.
Right through.
Pull it up, back it up, jack it up, and come again.
When I look at where I'm coming from, looking back at where the journey began, I really have to say that I'm strong, I'm strong. All praises to the Most High One. Where I'm coming from, looking back at where the journey began, I really have to say that I'm strong, I'm strong. All praises to the Most High One.
Poetry.
Say, howdy and thank you. Miss Lou would have say, howdy and thank you. No broke, no square, which means it does no harm to show good manners. So I'm here to say thank you. Maintaining the established protocols, I say good morning to all. I'm elated to deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of the National Library of Jamaica, which has now opened a season of celebration surrounding Jamaican poetry. The launch of the Poet Laureate prizes for the 2022 cycle and the unveiling of the Jamaica Poetry Archives. A round of applause, please, for the Jamaica Poetry Archive. Now, please bear with me as I give honorable mention to those who made this experience a success. We extend sincere thanks to our Minister of State, the Honorable Alando Terrelong, and the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment, and Sport for their unwavering support to the endeavors of the National Library of Jamaica. Sir, thank you. We especially thank the members of the Diplomatic Corps who so graciously accepted our invitation. High Commissioner Emina Tudakovic, High Commissioner Maureen Tamuno, OAS representative, Ms. Janelle Van Glanenwegel of the OAS, yes. UNESCO representative, Ms. Isabel Vieira and Mr. Everton Hannam. To our very own Poets Laureate,
Professor Mervyn Morris, thank you, sir, for coming. And of course, Miss Olive Senior, Poet Laureate 2021 to 2024. To the executive team at the National Library of Jamaica, Miss Joy Douglas, our board chair and chairman or co-chairman of the Poet Laureate of Jamaica Committee, who is joined online by Professor Edward Baugh, co-chair of the committee, and of course, Miss Beverly Lashley, National Librarian. To our past Poetry Prize winner, welcome, sir, and thank you, Mr. Demoy Lindo. To the teachers and students who joined us here today and online from Spanish Town High and Arden High, thank you. To the media who will take this message far and wide, to our youth, thank you. To the hard-working staff at the National Library of Jamaica, and to our Master of Ceremonies, Miss Dahlia Harris, a job well done as per usual. And to Budo Productions, excellent, excellent poetry display. And to you, our friends, family at home, abroad, thank you. Now, gratitude has completed the circle. Here's to poetry for World Poetry Day 2022. Thank you.
And I want another round of applause, not just for the vote of thanks, but for the hard work that he does. Thank you very much, Wayne, for that. Ladies and gentlemen, and so we've come to the close of this official World Poetry Day event. Please spread the word about the Jamaica Poetry Archive. It's very important, and about the competition. And I have to comment about, I have to, and say, who is the artist, Miss Ashley? Professor Earl. Yes. Wonderful. Prof, you saw yourself looking as handsome as ever. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Very nicely done. Ladies and gentlemen, so without further ado, thank you so much for attending. God bless you all. I'm Dahlia Harris. Thank you so much for being here.